Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Miami Hurricanes land another commitment in the 2024 class, and this time from a very interesting prospect and three-star offensive tackle, Deryc Plazz from the state of Florida. I'm sure many Miami fans are looking at their rankings, maybe scratching their head. The 73rd offensive tackle in the class, outside the top 1,000 nationally as a prospect, according to 24/7 Sports Composite. I'll say this. I'm not a mastermind at evaluating offensive line talent out of high school. I'm not going to sit here and turn on the film and tell y'all got a good one. That being said, I know who is. Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal. And they have shown during their time at Oregon as well that they are very good at it. Like, they find guys who are maybe a little bit under the radar, guys who aren't getting the as much attention from Power 5 schools as maybe they should be. They grab those guys. They're elite at developing that talent, and then they put out offensive linemen to the NFL draft. Oh, you can cross-check this. Know who else is really good at this? James Franklin and his offensive staff at Penn State, right? You take a look at a guy like Olu Fashanu, if you guys are kind of NFL draft nerds, probably going to be a top 10 pick in the 2024 NFL draft, probably could have been a top 10 pick in the 2023 NFL draft. He was the 45th offensive tackle in the class in 2020, a three-star prospect that was overlooked by a lot of Power 5 schools. So you're looking – My point in saying that is Deryc Plazz was a former Penn State commit. So James Franklin obviously was piqued. His interest was piqued by Deryc Plazz, just in the same way Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal's interests are piqued. And so you could potentially be getting a really nice offensive tackle that maybe 24/7 Sports doesn't evaluate as kind of an elite guy. But I think Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, and James Franklin at Penn State all kind of had this guy had their attention a little bit. So for Miami fans, I think there's a lot to be excited about. We're going to be talking about one other thing before we get into the film. Now, before we do again, just want to say shout out to the Miami fans. It's been we've talked about almost every commitment in this Miami class in 2024. The reason is the support you guys have shown truly is absolutely awesome. Anytime I get a chance to talk some Miami Hurricanes football, I try to do so because you guys have been absolutely awesome. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We just hit 6,500 subscribers. Again, can't thank you guys enough for all the love that you guys have shown the boys. All right, back to Deryc Plazz. We talked about Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, James Franklin, all liking this kid. Another thing I would note for Miami is that they just took the two best offensive tackles arguably in the 2023 class, in Francis and Sampson. And what could that lead you to say is it's probably hard to land top offensive tackles in the 2024 class when you have the talent that you just brought in 2023. And what I've heard from the scouts and what I've heard from coaches saying about this class is in terms of this tackle group in 2024, it's not great. So even if they go out and land a Brandon Baker, who I certainly would say, Miami fans, if you get him, like, that's massive. He might not be better than Sampson or Francis. And what are we talking about? He might not be playing till his junior, sophomore year. Or maybe even further than that, his junior year, if you do the math right. I'm not a math guy, but if you do the math right, junior year. And so when you land two top tackles in your 2023 class, it's probably really hard to convince these elite tackles in the 2024 class to come to your program because they might not see playing time early. And that's in the world of a transfer portal. Like, a lot of these guys want to play early. And if you don't necessarily offer that opportunity, you might just be out on some of these recruits who want to play early, and they might not be able to over guys like Francis and Sampson in that 2023 class. So what does Miami do in their offensive tackle group in this 2024 class? They take two kind of projects, right? Deryc Plazz, 6'5", 290 pounds. He played his junior year at 260 pounds. And so he didn't have the frame. And that might be a reason why he was overlooked. But know who else was kind of overlooked because the frame wasn't quite there? Zion Nelson. And I know Zion Nelson's been battling some injuries, but if you guys have been listening to us for the last year, like, we're massive Zion Nelson fans in terms of when healthy, really think he's one of the better tackles in the country. He was in a mock draft that I had, a first-round mock draft 2 years ago. And that's how much I like Zion Nelson. But Zion Nelson had a very similar story. He came into Miami 6'5", 245 pounds, I believe. He played as a true freshman at like 280 pounds. I remember that game. He trotted out as a true freshman tackle against Florida. got his butt handed to him a little bit. I'm sure Miami would have preferred to kind of redshirt him and continue to let him develop, but they had to play him. I kind of see maybe a very similar runway for a guy like Deryc Plazz, who's a little bit undersized but has that elite athleticism. And I'll say this, I kind of prefer guys like that because you're going to put the weight on the right way. You see some massive offensive tackles, and what was rare about Francis and Sampson is they were big dudes with big-time size, but also were phenomenal athletes. You see a lot of tackles come in and kind of coveted guys because they're 6'6", 325, 330 pounds coming out of high school. A lot of times that size isn't necessarily great, or it wasn't put on the right way. And so they got to come in and kind of reshape their body in terms of getting some athleticism back. If you're younger, if you're a smaller guy, I should say, coming into college, you can put on the weight the right way. And so when you get up to 315, 320 pounds, whatever weight you're going to play at, you're going to be kind of a little bit more athletic, and you're going to be carrying that weight the right way because you're putting it on the right way in college. So I'm personally just a little bit more of a fan of some of the smaller tackles that have some room to add weight to their frame, like a guy like Deryc Plazz. And you take a look at what Miami's done in this 2024 class, and you go down to Juan Mignat, who's another kind of project tackle. So both these tackles in Miami's class in 2024, probably guys who are projects, but why take two projects? Because you don't really have two projects in your 2023 class. You got two bona fide Power 5 starters. So you are able to take tackles that, all right, you might not be ready year 1, year 2, but by year 3, year 4, you might be ready. You have one guy who's a little on the smaller side. You got to add weight to the frame. And then Juan Mignat, who has the frame, has the size, 6'6", 340 pounds. If you've seen pictures of this guy, he's absolutely massive, but probably needs to reshape that body a little bit, get some athleticism to play that offensive tackle spot in the ACC. And so what does Miami do? Instead of going after some of the top targets in this class, they go out and find some guys that have a ton of potential but might not be ready right away. And so their recruiting rankings a little bit lower, maybe getting a little less Power 5 buzz. But you get those two guys, you get them in their strength room, you get their bodies right. They're going to be getting coached up by one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, plus Mario Cristobal at the head coaching spot. You feel really good about what these tackles might be able to look like when it comes to playing year 3, year 4. And so I think signing 2 elite tackles in that 2023 class gives you the opportunity to kind of take a gamble on some of these tackle prospects in the 2024 class. I think that's exactly what the Miami Hurricanes did. And I get it. It's easy to just look at the national recruit. I'm a Michigan fan, and I want them to sign the 5 stars. Trust me, I do. And I know Miami fans want to sign the 5 stars in this class, but sometimes you just got to trust the head coach. And recruiting's about just being optimistic about the guys you're bringing in. Like, there's a reason why Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal spent the time to go visit this kid, extend him an offer. They see something in him. So you might as well be excited about it. Of course, you want to land the 5 stars, the top 10 dudes nationally. And I think Miami will be able to land a few of those top guys. But there's also a lot of reason to be excited about the 3 stars who have some developmental upside. And I think Deryc Plazz certainly resembles somebody like that. So again, want to appreciate you guys. Just shout you guys out for checking the boys out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.